The bright lights of Galactic Trade Station, Pinnacle, reflected off the polished metal walls as Jack Matthews hurried through the crowded corridors. He was late for his meeting with the stellar Commonwealth's trade delegation, and his worn boots made soft tapping sounds against the floor as he rushed past aliens of various shapes and sizes. In his battered messenger bag, alongside his digital trading permits and contract tablets, Jack carried his usual travel snacks. As a long-haul merchant who spent months traveling between trading posts, he had learned to pack comfort food from Earth. Today's selection included 3 bags of potato chips, some cheese-flavored corn snacks, and a pack of chocolate cookies. The meeting room's door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, 4 representatives of the stellar Commonwealth sat around a gleaming table. Their tall, slender forms and silvery skin made them look almost like living mercury. Ambassador Tal, their leader, fixed all 3 of his eyes on Jack. "Merchant Matthews," Tal said, his universal translator making his voice sound like wind chimes, "you are exactly 7 minutes late." Jack dropped into the empty chair, trying to catch his breath. "Sorry about that, Ambassador. Had some trouble with the station's gravity adjusters in Level 3. He pulled out his contract tablet, but as he did, a bag of potato chips fell onto the table with a crinkle. The Commonwealth representatives all leaned forward slightly, their head tentacles twitching with curiosity. "What is that unusual container?" asked Tal's assistant, Ren. "It makes such an interesting sound." "Oh, this." Jack picked up the bag. "Just some snacks from Earth. Potato chips. Nothing special. Just processed food we eat when we're busy or traveling." Tal's head tentacles curled with interest. "In our culture, sharing food is a sign of trust and good faith in negotiations. Would you honor us with a sample of your Earth sustenance?" Jack shrugged and opened the bag. The sharp smell of artificial cheese flavoring filled the room, causing the alien's sensory membranes to flutter. He held out the bag, and each representative carefully picked up a single chip. What happened next would change the course of galactic history. As soon as Tal placed the chip in his mouth, his silvery skin began to shimmer with waves of color. His head tentacles straightened completely, a sign of extreme pleasure in his species. The other representatives had similar reactions. Ren actually levitated a few inches off his chair, something his species only did in moments of pure joy. "By the 7 suns," Tal whispered, his voice trembling. This is unprecedented. The combination of sodium chloride, lipids, and artificial flavor compounds, it's creating a neurochemical reaction I've never experienced before." "It's just a potato chip," Jack said, bewildered by their reaction. "We've been making them for over 200 years. Nothing fancy about it." "Nothing fancy." Ren had finally stopped floating. "Merchant Matthews, in 10,000 years of space exploration, our species has never encountered a food item that could trigger our pleasure centers with such intensity. The way you've processed these simple organic materials, it's beyond anything in our culinary science." Jack watched in amazement as the sophisticated alien diplomats began to delicately fight over the potato chip bag. Ambassador Tal had to restore order by carefully dividing the remaining chips equally among them. "We must discuss trade agreements immediately," Tal declared, still shimmering with waves of color. The Stellar Commonwealth would be extremely interested in establishing a regular supply of these potato chips. "Name your price." Jack's mind raced. He had come to this meeting hoping to negotiate a small deal for Earth's industrial metals. Instead, he was watching some of the most advanced beings in the galaxy experience what appeared to be a religious experience over a bag of cheap snacks. "Perhaps," he said slowly, reaching into his bag, "you'd also like to try some cheese puffs." The meeting room erupted into excited chittering as Jack realized he had just stumbled onto something much bigger than a simple trade deal. As he watched the distinguished alien diplomats carefully examining the new bag of snacks, he couldn't help but wonder what would happen when they discovered the rest of Earth's junk food arsenal. News spread through the Pinnacle station faster than a malfunctioning warp drive. Within 3 days of Jack's meeting with the stellar Commonwealth delegation, His small trading office was overwhelmed with requests from various alien species. They all wanted to try the legendary pleasure food from Earth. Jack sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen in disbelief. The trading prices being offered for simple snack foods were astronomical. A single pack of nacho-flavored chips was now worth more than a small shuttlecraft. His small supply of soda had sparked a bidding war between the gaseous drift beings, who claimed the carbonation created something they called bubble euphoria in their gaseous forms. "This is getting out of hand," he muttered, watching as another 100 messages popped up in his inbox. Most of them were from luxury goods dealers across 3 sectors of space, all demanding exclusive distribution rights. A knock on his office door made him look up. It was Tom, his old friend who ran the station's supply depot. His face was red from running. "Jack, you need to see this," Tom said, catching his breath. "The Luminars are in the main trading hall. All of them." The Luminars were crystalline beings who rarely left their ships, preferring to trade through intermediaries. Jack hurried with Tom to the trading hall, and his jaw dropped at the sight. The huge chamber was filled with the gleaming forms of Luminar traders, their crystal bodies reflecting rainbow patterns on the walls. They all stood in perfect formation around a single table where a bag of Doritos sat under a protective force field. The Luminar chief trader, a towering crystal figure named Bright Path, turned all 4 of its faceted sides toward Jack. "Merchant Matthews," it chimed, its voice creating harmonic patterns in the air. "We have analyzed the corn-based triangular sustenance. The combination of flavor compounds creates resonance patterns in our crystalline matrices that we find most pleasant." "You mean, you like the taste?" Jack asked, trying to keep things simple. "Like is an insufficient word," Bright Path replied. "When we consume these Doritos, our entire crystal lattice vibrates in frequencies we previously thought impossible. It is enlightening." As if to prove the point, one of the younger Luminars was nibbling on a single chip in the corner. Its crystal body was pulsing with colors that weren't supposed to exist in normal space. Jack's communicator buzzed. It was a message from Earth's Central Trading Authority. They had noticed the sudden spike in demand for Earth snack foods and wanted an immediate explanation. As he tried to compose a response, another commotion broke out near the station's main restaurant. A group of drift beings had discovered carbonated cola. The floating gas clouds were changing colors and shapes rapidly as they absorbed the bubbles through their permeable membranes. One of them had turned into a perfect sphere of swirling purple and gold, humming what sounded like an ancient space shanty. "I'll give you my entire helium mine for 10 cases, one drift being called out, its voice fluctuating with excitement. Jack watched as more alien species arrived at the station. The Hive Collective was offering rare metamaterials for a shipment of gummy bears. The Ancient Ones, being so old they remembered the formation of their galaxies, were deeply fascinated by something as simple as cheese puffs. "Tom," Jack said, turning to his friend, "I need you to send an urgent message to Earth. Tell them to start ramping up snack food production. All of it. And I mean all of it. Even the weird stuff." Tom asked, raising an eyebrow. Jack looked at a group of alien diplomats who were having what appeared to be a religious experience over a package of fruit-flavored candy. "Especially the weird stuff. I have a feeling the galaxy isn't ready for what human junk food engineers can create." As he headed back to his office to handle the growing crisis, Jack couldn't help but smile. Who would have thought that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization would come in a crinkly bag with a serving size recommendation that everyone ignored? The CEO's office of Global Snacks Corporation took up the entire top floor of their skyscraper in New York. Jack felt small as he sat in front of the massive desk, watching Mr. Wilson pace back and forth. Through the window behind him, flying cars zipped past, creating streams of light in the early evening sky. "Let me get this straight," Mr. Wilson said, stopping to look at Jack. "You're telling me that our cheese puffs are now worth more than spacecraft fuel in some parts of the galaxy?" "Yes, sir," Jack replied. And the drift beings are offering entire gas giant planets for the secret formula of our cola. Mr. Wilson dropped into his chair, running his hands through his gray hair. On his desk, dozens of screens showed the company's stock price shooting up like a rocket. Every major snack food company on Earth was experiencing the same thing. "We need to act fast," Wilson said. "Our competitors are already retooling their factories for massive production increases. The space station near Mars is being converted into a giant snack warehouse." Jack nodded. "But there's something else you should know. The aliens, their bodies react differently to our snacks. Some species are showing signs of, well, addiction." Before Wilson could respond, his office door burst open. A group of important-looking people rushed in, led by a woman in a sharp business suit. "Mr. Wilson," she said quickly, "I'm Linda Porter from the United Earth Government. We got 5 alien trade ships orbiting Earth right now, all demanding immediate snack food export licenses." Jack watched as more people filled the office. Scientists carrying data tablets, military officers looking concerned, and corporate executives from other food companies. They all started talking at once. "The Luminars are offering to trade their quantum computing technology for our flavor engineering secrets. The Stellar Commonwealth wants to make potato chips a protected galactic resource. 3 different alien species are trying to buy entire snack factories." Wilson raised his hands for quiet. "Okay, people. Let's think about this carefully. We have a responsibility here. Our junk food is becoming the most valuable resource in the galaxy. We need to handle this right." Just then, Jack's communicator buzzed. It was a message from Ambassador Tal. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency meeting. Some alien species were starting to fight over the limited supply of Earth snacks. "Sir," Jack said to Wilson, "we need to do something fast. This is getting bigger than just business." Wilson stood up and walked to his window, looking at the city below. "You're right. Linda, get me the president on the line. We need to establish an Earth-wide snack food production protocol." He turned to the scientists. "I want you to study why our snacks affect aliens this way. Find out if we can make them safer without losing the appeal." To the military officers, "We need security for our factories and shipping routes. Earth snacks are now as valuable as gold." Finally, he looked at Jack. "And you, since you started all this, are going to help us set up proper trade channels. We can't have a black market for Doritos causing a galactic war." Jack thought about how this all started with one bag of chips in a simple trade meeting. Now he was sitting in the CEO's office, helping make decisions that would affect the entire galaxy. "There's one more thing," he said. "The Ancient Ones. They're asking about something called bubble gum. They're particularly interested in the kind that changes colors and has a sour center." The room fell silent. Wilson's eyes widened. "You mean they haven't even discovered our candy yet?" "No, sir. Just basic snacks so far." Wilson sat down heavily in his chair. "Heaven help us when they find out about ice cream." As the room erupted into another round of excited planning, Jack couldn't help but wonder what would happen when the galaxy discovered the existence of human desserts. Some secrets, he thought, might be better kept hidden, at least for now. The dark alley behind Pinnacle Station's maintenance sector wasn't the kind of place Jack expected to end up when he started his career as a merchant. Yet here he was, watching a shady deal go down between a nervous-looking Luminar and a hooded figure selling what appeared to be knockoff cheese puffs. "This has to stop," Jack muttered to Tom, who stood beside him recording everything on his datapad. In the 3 months since Earth snacks had become galactic currency, a massive black market had emerged. The Luminar's crystal body flickered with dull colors as it sampled the fake snack. Suddenly, it started to crack at the edges, a sign of extreme distress in its species. "These are not real Earth snacks," it chimed in anger. "The resonance is all wrong." Before anyone could move, a team of galactic security officers materialized from hidden positions. Their leader, Officer Brooks, stepped forward, her uniform glowing with official markings. "Another counterfeit operation," she said, scanning the fake snacks. Third one this week. The criminals are getting desperate. Back in the station's main control room, Jack and Officer Brooks watched multiple screens showing similar scenes across the galaxy. One screen showed a group of drift beings huddled in a spaceport, their gaseous forms dim and sluggish without their daily dose of carbonated drinks. Another displayed a luxury cruise ship where wealthy aliens were paying outrageous prices for genuine Earth candy bars. The withdrawal symptoms are getting worse, Brooks said, pointing to a medical report. Some species are becoming physically dependent on the artificial flavors and preservatives. Their bodies have never evolved to handle these combinations. Jack felt a wave of guilt. We never meant for this to happen. They were just snacks. His communicator beeped, an urgent message from Earth's Central Command. The situation was escalating. Underground factories were popping up on remote planets, trying to replicate Earth's snack food formulas. Most attempts were dangerous failures, causing serious health issues for alien consumers. Look at this, Tom said, bringing up a new report. A group of stellar Commonwealth scientists finally figured out why Earth snacks are so addictive to other species. The report showed complex chemical diagrams. In simple terms, the artificial preservatives and flavor enhancers in human junk food were triggering pleasure responses in alien brains that their natural foods never could. Evolution had never prepared them for the intense combinations humans had created. It's exactly because our snacks are so artificial that they're having this effect, Jack realized. No other species ever thought to make food this way. A commotion outside drew their attention. A crowd had gathered around the station's main view screen, where news was breaking about the latest crisis. A cargo ship carrying premium potato chips had been hijacked near the Carina Nebula. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session. This isn't just about snacks anymore, Officer Brooks said gravely. This is becoming a security nightmare. We've got diplomatic incidents brewing, addiction clinics overflowing, and black market dealers getting more violent. Jack watched as another screen showed the Luminar home world, where their entire society was restructuring around the regulated distribution of Earth snacks. The Ancient Ones had closed their borders to prevent the spread of what they called the Crunch Curse, but smugglers were still getting through. We need to find a solution fast, Jack said, looking at a map showing the spread of snack-related incidents across the galaxy. Something that can satisfy their cravings without causing all these problems. Tom pointed to another alert coming in. Well, we better hurry. Someone just leaked information about human ice cream to the drift beings. They're already gathering their fleets. Jack closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Somehow, they had to find a way to control this crisis before the entire galaxy descended into chaos over cheese puffs and cola. The fate of interstellar peace now rested on humanity's ability to handle its most unlikely export, the simple pleasure of junk food. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council glittered with the light of 1,000 stars through its crystal dome. Jack shifted uncomfortably in his chair as representatives from 200 alien species argued about potato chips and candy bars. He never thought he'd see the day when Earth snacks would be the main topic at the galaxy's most important political gathering. Order. Order in the chamber. The council leader, a tall being made of pure light named First Glow, called out. His voice echoed through the vast space. We will now hear the proposal to classify all Earth snack foods as controlled substances. Ambassador Tal floated forward, his silvery skin still showing traces of orange dust from his last encounter with a bag of Doritos. Honorable Council, we cannot ignore the crisis any longer. 17 species have reported severe withdrawal symptoms. The black market is causing diplomatic incidents. We must regulate these substances. Earth's representative, Admiral Thompson, stood up next. She was a short woman with gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude. Earth understands your concerns, she said, but our food products meet all safety standards. You can't punish us because some individuals can't control their snacking habits. The chamber erupted in shouts and protests. A drift being turned bright red with anger, causing the translator to spark. Easy for you to say. Your species isn't addicted to fizzy drinks. Jack watched as more representatives shared their stories. The Luminars had started building temples dedicated to cheese puffs. The ancient ones were struggling with a youth rebellion centered around bubble gum. 3 minor space empires had already gone bankrupt buying Earth snacks. Perhaps, Jack said, standing up suddenly, we're looking at this the wrong way. All eyes, sensing organs, and consciousness detectors turned toward him. I've been working with a team of scientists, both human and alien. We've been studying why our snacks affect you all so strongly. He activated a hologram showing complex chemical structures. It's not just the taste. It's the artificial nature of our ingredients. They trigger responses in your bodies that natural foods never could. The chamber grew quiet as Jack continued. But here's the interesting part. Each species reacts differently. The Luminars resonate with certain flavor crystals. The drift beings are affected by carbonation patterns. The stellar commonwealth responds to specific preservative combinations. Admiral Thompson caught on quickly. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Jack nodded. Instead of banning Earth snacks, we should create specialized versions for each species. Safe versions that provide the experience they enjoy without the addictive side effects. First Glow's light brightened with interest. And who would control this production? A joint committee, Jack proposed. Earth food scientists working together with alien biochemists. We could establish the first interstellar Food and Drug Administration. The chamber buzzed with discussion. Ambassador Tal's head tentacles curled thoughtfully. This could work, but Earth would have to share some of its snack-making secrets. Some, Admiral Thompson agreed carefully. But not all. We have to protect our intellectual property. The recipe for cola, for instance, stays secret. A Luminar representative chimed in, literally. What about existing black market operations? We crack down on them together, Jack said. Legal, regulated snack trade only, and we set up rehabilitation centers for affected species. The debates continued for hours. Jack watched as the galaxy's most powerful beings argued about flavor profiles and serving sizes. Finally, First Glow called for a vote. The results were clear. Earth would keep producing snacks, but under new guidelines. The Interstellar Food and Drug Administration would be established. And most importantly, a team of the galaxy's best minds would work together to understand and safely harness the power of human junk food. As the session ended, Jack noticed Ambassador Tal sneaking what looked suspiciously like a candy bar into his robe. Some habits, it seemed, would be harder to regulate than others. Well, Admiral Thompson said with a small smile, I never thought I'd be negotiating galactic peace treaties over snack foods. Jack watched the various representatives leaving the chamber, many already discussing plans for the new administration. At least nobody's shooting at each other anymore, he said. They're too busy arguing about which flavor of chips is best. The new Interstellar Food Research Center took up an entire asteroid in the neutral space between Earth and the stellar Commonwealth. Through the lab's reinforced windows, Jack watched scientists of different species working together, surrounded by bags of snacks and complex testing equipment. Dr. Reed, the head of human food science, stood at her workstation, carefully measuring something that looked like glowing blue potato chips. Jack, come look at this, she called out, her eyes bright with excitement. I think we've cracked it. Jack walked over, followed by Ambassador Tal, who had been appointed as the alien liaison for the project. The ambassador's silvery skin had finally returned to its normal shade after 3 weeks of snack detox. What have you found? Jack asked, looking at the strange chips. Watch this, Dr. Reed said. She handed one chip to a Luminar researcher. The crystalline being consumed it, and its body began to glow with pleasant colors, but there was no sign of the desperate craving that usually followed. The trick, Dr. Reed explained, pointing to her computer screen, was to modify the flavor compounds to work with each species' biology instead of against it. We're calling it adaptive snack technology. Ambassador Tal picked up another chip, his tentacles moving cautiously. "You mean?" "Go ahead." Dr. Reed nodded. "This batch is designed for Commonwealth physiology." The ambassador ate the chip. His eyes widened as the familiar pleasure spread through him. But this time it was different. The taste. It's just as good, but I don't feel the need to eat the whole bag immediately. Jack looked around the lab. Different teams were working on various projects. One group was developing carbonated drinks that drift beings could enjoy without becoming dependent. Another was creating candy that would give luminars their desired crystal resonance without causing structural instability. "How did you do it?" Jack asked, watching a young scientist carefully adjust the formula for what looked like cheese puffs. Dr. Reed pulled up a holographic diagram. "We studied how Earth snacks interact with alien biochemistry. Then we developed what we call species-specific satisfaction enhancers. Each version of a snack is tailored to provide the maximum enjoyment with minimum addictive properties." Tom burst into the lab, waving a datapad. "The first test results are in from the rehabilitation centers. The new snacks are working. Addiction rates are dropping and black market demand is falling." The news spread quickly through the facility. Scientists cheered, some floating, others glowing, and a few making sounds that human ears couldn't quite process. Even the usually stoic Ancient One's representative cracked what might have been a smile. "But there's more," Dr. Reed said, pulling Jack aside. "While developing these solutions, we discovered something incredible about human food science. Our ability to create artificial flavors and textures. It's not just cooking. It's a form of engineering that no other species ever developed." Jack looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," she explained. "Every other species focused on making their natural foods better. Humans, we invented completely new flavors and textures. We made foods that nature never intended. That's why our snacks had such an impact. We're the only species that thought to combine chemicals just to make things taste good." Ambassador Tal joined them, holding a perfectly safe cheese puff. "She's right. Your species' approach to food is unique in the galaxy. You didn't just solve a crisis. You've revolutionized how we think about food science." Jack watched as teams of human and alien scientists continued their work, sharing ideas and testing new formulas. On one table, they were developing a new type of ice cream that would be safe for plasma-based life forms. Another group was working on sugar-free candies that would give drift beings the same joy without the sugar crash. "So," Jack said with a smile, "I guess junk food really did turn out to be our greatest contribution to galactic science." Dr. Reed laughed. "Who would have thought that the secret to interstellar cooperation was hidden in a bag of potato chips?" Space Munchies opened its 10,000th restaurant on the bustling trading world of New Venus, exactly 1 year after the great snack food crisis. Jack stood at the entrance, watching as creatures from across the galaxy lined up to try the latest safe, species-specific treats from Earth. The restaurant's sign changed colors and patterns to be visible to all forms of vision, from infrared to quantum sight. Inside, different sections catered to various alien physiologies. The luminar section sparkled with crystalline booths where they could safely enjoy their resonance-balanced chips. Drift beings floated in special chambers filled with perfectly carbonated atmosphere. "I never imagined it would get this big," Tom said, standing beside Jack. He was now the vice president of alien customer relations for Space Munchies, wearing the uniform that changed colors to match whoever he was talking to. Jack smiled, remembering how it all started with one bag of chips in a simple trade meeting. Who would have thought that Earth would become the snack capital of the galaxy? The Galactic Council's annual trade summit was being held right next door. No coincidence, as most galactic leaders had developed a fondness for Earth's carefully regulated snack foods. Through the large windows, Jack could see Ambassador Tal leading a discussion while enjoying a bowl of specially formulated, non-addictive cheese puffs. Dr. Reed appeared, carrying her latest invention, a new type of bubble gum that could be enjoyed by silicon-based life forms. "The latest sales figures are in," she announced. "Earth's food science industry is now the most profitable in the known universe. But more importantly, our research has opened up new fields of xenobiology and chemical engineering. A group of ancient ones floated by, their ancient forms surprisingly nimble as they headed for the ice cream section. One of them stopped to greet Jack. "The wisdom of your species continues to amaze us," it said in a voice that seemed to echo through time. "You have turned simple pleasure into an art form." Inside the restaurant, Jack watched the scenes with pride. Stellar Commonwealth diplomats shared tables with luminaries, discussing trade deals over plates of safe, regulated snacks. Young drift beings were taking their first supervised sips of specially designed sodas in the safety chambers. Even the normally secretive Hive Collective had opened a chain of Earth-style convenience stores in their territory. "Mr. Matthews." A young human server approached him. "The Galactic Council is ready for your presentation." Jack straightened his tie and picked up his presentation tablet. As the honorary chairman of the Interstellar Food and Drug Administration, he had to give regular updates on the state of galactic snack relations. In the council chamber, representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their specialized seats, many of them enjoying Earth snacks that had been carefully designed for their species. First Glow called the meeting to order. "Before we begin," the luminous being announced, "I believe we should acknowledge something. 1 Earth year ago, we faced a crisis that threatened to tear our galactic community apart. Today, thanks to human innovation and interstellar cooperation, that same crisis has brought us closer together." Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Even the black market for original Earth snacks had almost disappeared, as most species preferred the new, safe versions designed for their biology. And now, First Glow continued, "Mr. Matthews will present the latest developments in human food science." Jack stood at the podium, looking out at the gathered representatives of galactic civilization. On his tablet was information about new flavors, new technologies, and new ways of bringing species together through the simple pleasure of snacking. "Distinguished representatives," he began, unable to hide his smile. "First, I'd like to announce our latest breakthrough. We've finally developed a version of hot sauce that won't cause plasma beings to explode." The chamber erupted in cheers, proving once, and for all that in the vast expanse of space, nothing brought people together quite like the joy of sharing good food, even if that food had been engineered in a lab and approved by the most advanced food safety organization in the galaxy. And somewhere, in a small office on Pinnacle Station, a bag of original Earth potato chips sat in a display case, reminding everyone how the most unlikely things could change the course of galactic history.